Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of No Place Like Homaha. We are your hosts, and if you don't know our names, you can just, watch previous episodes, or if you're a consistent listener, thanks for being with us, and you know who we are. All right.
Or if you're watching the video, you can just look at the bottom of our screens. Shut up, Josh.
Okay. Before we even, dive, super into this weekend, I wanted to talk about, because we, again, record on Sundays, still recording on Sundays for this one. However, most of the games have passed. I'm finishing up the Seton Hall CBU game now. But one thing we missed on last podcast, talking about, looking at the player's name now, Liam McFadden Ackman. Excuse me. He is from NKU baseball, Northern Kentucky, and he had on that Sunday 2 grand slams, and he hit for the cycle in a game. So give that man his flowers. Wow. That is
2 grand slams.
2 grand slams. I believe they also were in the same inning. I think they were in the same inning.
You're kidding me.
But yeah.
Wow.
So there's that. Want to kind of give him a shout out. Otherwise, we had a few other standouts throughout the week. Brody Drost had a 3-run bomb that helped LA Tech beat Ole Miss. Also, let's just dive into it since we're already talking about
Might as well.
LA Tech. Justice for the boys.
Big time.
Okay. For those of you that don't know, we're going to pull up again what was communicated. Louisiana Tech, they took a 5-4 lead in the 7th, and then a lightning delay was called. So, since they didn't get to finish the bottom half of that inning, it negates whatever happens in the top half. So it reverts back to the last completed inning since the game was canceled. Ole Miss ended up winning 4-3.
But you're missing out the one part that, according to, and I believe this was on that tweet, wasn't it? That Ole Miss did not tarp the field.
Did not tarp the field
at all. So one, I'm going to say, I'm still a big Ole Miss fan. Like, the national championship last year was huge. Mike Bianco, hell of a coach. But it's like, okay, you guys got to figure that out. You cannot just not tarp a field for a lightning delay. Like, I've seen them tarp the field a lot worse watching games live and watching, like, their old season videos going back in the day on YouTube. They've tarped the field for a hell of a lot less. So I think if you're really going to go back to that, one, they could have finished out the game the next day, and they could have played part of a doubleheader. Because I think you personally should have been able to finish that game out.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, and you can, because they did that in the College World Series when it was here. And granted, that's a different stage, but in some cases, regular season matters here for teams, especially a team like Louisiana Tech, who is trying to get a top 25 win and move on and potentially do it again later in the season. But I mean, you got to be able to tarp the field. There is no excuse that game should have been called. There's no excuse that game should have even had Ole Miss win in the first place. So whether or not you want to go to the next day and you want to make that your schedule, then fine. But
yeah, it just kind of takes the game then out of their hands, and like it's really frustrating to especially see that and being like they played that much of the game. And if it comes down to it, if they would have scored those runs in previous innings or something, then the game would have been called and then LA wins. Like the inning was already finished. It had happened. Like Ole Miss allowed those runs to score.
Yep.
That's the way the game is played. Like it happens. But to take it away then because they didn't play the bottom half is ridiculous.
I agree.
Just absolutely bizarre.
Yeah. It's not something that you want to see because, I mean, like, and the NCAA, we have said it before, they're a bunch of fun haters.
Mm.
And, like, granted, it is a rule back in baseball because, I mean, Josh, you and I experienced this, what was it, Junior Warrior Ball when we were playing at Grover. And there was that game with the Lightning, and we thought that if it would have rained, it would have canceled it right there. But because we completed that inning, that would have been just the final of the game. You remember that?
No.
Oh, all right. Then either I was dreaming or that was just a totally different day. But I I don't know. I feel like the weather delay stuff needs to be looked at. And now everybody is in the rules committee and everything. They're looking at trying to speed up the game of football. They're trying to speed up. Everybody's trying to speed up baseball. It's like, dude, take a look at what rule actually matters here. This cost the team a win. This cost the team part of a game, all because a school didn't a coach decided not to tarp the field. And like I said, I still have a lot of respect for Mike Bianco, but he lost a little bit on this one because, I mean, you can't just – you can play it as strategy. You can call it strategy if you want, but I personally call it bullshit.
I don't think it was meant for them to like be like, oh, if we don't tarp the field, it's not gonna happen. Like, it was just, I feel like there was maybe some miscommunication. It was just like, I don't think it was entirely the head coach's fault, and I think it's kind of out of their hands at that point. I think it's more so the rules like committee being like, this is how we're gonna rule this game, and that's just very frustrating to see it come down to. You did what you needed to do to come back to it, but then it gets taken away because of the circumstance. So
tough day to be an LA Tech fan. It is a tough day. Yes. But I mean, throwing it to this weekend, I mean, if you want to talk about anything that baseball is known for, it's for being a game of everybody has a chance to literally beat everybody, because everybody could have a bad day. Everybody could have a good day on your squad. You could have guys that have a horrible day, and two other guys decide, hey, I woke up this morning, ate my Wheaties, I'm going to pop out a few home runs, and we're going to win the game. This weekend, we talked about it before we got on the show, this was a stacked weekend of just pure upsets, big games for a lot of teams kind of coming into the week. And the smaller teams are still saying that we're out here, we're coming out in full force. One team that did not decide to say that this weekend, poor old Northern Colorado. Friday was that was a massacre.
It's a bloodbath.
First of all, I don't think I've ever seen a team score 30 runs in baseball. Washington scored 32. The final score of that game on Friday was the Washington Huskies 32, Northern Colorado 7. As a coach, because like granted, I believe in the NCAA, the rules are the same as they were for us. It's 10 after 7 and I believe 15 after 5, wasn't it, for your run rules?
Yeah.
Something
like that.
So you're telling me, and I'm going to see if I can look up this stat line here for this game, because you're telling me that you would have had to score 32 runs in a span of 4.5 to 5 innings. That's insane. I'll try to see if I can. No, I don't want the Nationals here. Washington Husky baseball. Let's try that here. But you're telling me that a team scored 32 runs in the span of 5 innings. That is unreal. Look at the box score.
They played all 9.
They played all 9? When did they score most of their runs then?
First and second.
They just continue to play. They were like, you know what?
Yeah, scored 21 in 2 innings.
They scored 11 runs in the first, 10 in the second, 2 in the third, 3 in the fourth. They got shut out through the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then in the 6th,
because they probably gave up. They're just like, we've already had like 5 at bats.
Oh my!
They probably looked in the stands. And they were like, "Hey, do you wanna suit up? Do you still have eligibility? Come down here and play."
Dude, that is insane. And poor Northern Colorado, they got 2 back in the second inning to make it an 11-2 ball game before going into the bottom of the second. 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th, 2 in the 7th, and then 1 in the 8th. They had the final scoreline was Northern Colorado 7 runs on 8 hits, 3 errors. Washington 32 runs on 21 hits, 1 error.
They only had 1 bomb.
Yeah, that's insane. Only 1 home run. This is all base hits
Lord.
There was. I did see a wild pitch here
8
down in the
hit
first.
batters.
Yeah, that doesn't help either.
That's wild. So moving on from that game, because I'm hoping that Northern Colorado will also move on from that game. We had a triple play on March 3rd. So that is the third day of the third month. Hawaii pulled it against Minnesota as they're playing in a tournament up there at US Bank Stadium. They turned a triple play.
It was interesting.
I'm going to pull up the actual video here on my phone.
I was going to say, it was an interesting way to turn it because I think it was...
Hits it. Oh, I see.
Because they got two guys in a rundown. If I remember correctly, they had a couple guys in a rundown.
So... Okay. So the guy thought he hit a line drive to third base. The guy at third, the batter thought that he caught it.
Okay.
But the guy at third stopped it. And then, no, he still ran to first. So he stopped it. Then what he did is he waited until the guy going to home, because the bases were loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Guy going to home, he waited until he took off. And then he touched third base. Then he threw it to home, got the guy running to home. Then the guy at first thought it was caught. So he started walking back to the dugout. And then the catcher started yelling, go to first. And so he threw it to first and then got him out.
Interesting.
There you go. So always, kids, take notes. Always stay on the base until you are told to leave by the umpire.
That is a fair rule assessment there, because crazier stuff has happened.
True. I'm looking at some other games this weekend. Florida Gulf Coast ended up taking a series away from number 16 Florida State and proceeded to tweet out some of the most brutal graphics I have ever seen. Said missed us and then missed us again with some arrows in the ground, eagles flying up in the sky. They won the first game. Was it 10-8? They won the second game 11-10.
Mm-hmm.
So high scoring affairs. Another in-state rivalry. Another in-state rivalry we had this past weekend was Florida and Miami. Florida taking the first. What, did they take the first game from them or no? Did Miami take the first game and Florida took the second game?
I'm looking here
because I know in one of the games, Miami, one of the hitters hit a home run, went around the bases sporting the U, and then in the very next day,
so
Florida hit a home run.
They rolled
snapped the U over his knee.
Yeah, it was 10-4 on Friday. Florida, Miami took a win away, 14-6, and then Florida got the series win 14-4 in 8 innings. And mercy ruled them because that was the walk-off home run too that he broke the U off.
Nice, love that.
So Gators are 10-3 overall on the year, and I mean so far, like looking at it before they get into SEC play, I mean they've got 2 games against Florida Atlantic coming up. They've got Siena and then North Florida before they hit Alabama at home in Gainesville. So I mean, a little bit of an easier schedule here for the next couple of games. But like we talked about, the small teams are making waves.
It's true.
Like it's absolutely insane because I mean we'll talk about it here quick. I mean Nebraska ends up taking a win away from Vanderbilt in that tournament up in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge win for.
Yeah, they had 13 hits in that game. It was a 5-3 win. They had 13 hits and they held Vanderbilt to 5 hits.
Yeah, especially doing it off one of the potentially best arms in that Vanderbilt bullpen too. On that game, so I mean you're really looking at a good win there for Coach Bolt. They ended up losing to Ole Miss 14-5 earlier today, but they get 2 wins out of that tournament, including a top 10 win. They've got Northern Colorado coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then they're waiting to play Big Ten play until March 24th. So, and they'll have games with UNO and Creighton in Omaha. Creighton in Omaha. Lincoln is playing host to UNO on Tuesday, March 14th. So.
Gotcha. Looking earlier in the week, there was a tweet out showing the undefeated teams left in D1 baseball. You had Texas Tech, Wake Forest, Lamar, Virginia, NC State, Troy, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, and Alabama. Texas Tech lost to Rice on Friday. I don't know if they lost a game before that. So they're out. Do we have stats up on any other ones of those teams? So we would have Wake Forest, Lamar, Virginia, NC State, Troy,
It's
Georgia
NC
Tech.
State, Troy,
And Wake
Alabama,
Forest.
Wake Forest, Virginia.
So
That's
NC State, Troy, Virginia,
It's
Alabama,
5. There's 5
Yep.
teams.
and Wake Forest. See the other one?
Yep,
Yeah.
Wake Forest is still up.
Gotcha. So Georgia Tech lost, Lamar lost, South Carolina lost,
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech lost. Okay.
And
So there you go.
Northwestern
Speaking of
lost.
What? Who lost?
Northwestern.
Yeah.
yeah,
still
speaking of
0-9.
I was gonna say, speaking of teams that are not winning, well, in other news, Iona baseball is kind of taking a back burner. They're 2-8.
They lost. Yep.
I don't care about that right now. The storyline that is now at the forefront of us and the team that we worry about the most now. I am worried about Northern Colorado after that kind of loss because that's a tough look. But
They proceeded
this was
to lose
tweeted.
the next 3 games.
Yeah, they did.
Mm,
Shit on.
I am worried about them, but I'm more so worried about Northwestern. Yeah, Northwestern University. So
Yeah, they didn't
this
win.
was tweeted out on Monday. Sources saying sitting at 0-6, things are not well for NU Cats baseball. Pitching coach John Strauss, hitting coach / recruiting coordinator Dusty Napoleon, and director of ops Chris Beacom have stepped away from the program, leaving with the program with only head coach Jim Foster and volunteer Adrian Santiago. Drama. I don't know exactly. Again, I can't fill in anything on why they stepped away from the program or all that kind of stuff.
Probably because they're 0-9.
I mean, that could be it. Well, if nobody stepped away from Iona when they only had single-digit wins, I don't know.
Yeah, but some of these games are bad. 20-5 versus Texas State, 24-9
against Texas State. Yep. 14-5 against Louisiana Tech, 16-9 against Louisiana Tech.
Oh,
they got UIC. They got St. Louis coming up in a series. They got Butler in a series, then left TCU,
7 more
so
losses,
on and so forth.
An 8th loss. I see potentially 48 losses here.
The rest of the season. Has a team's never done that before. That's never happened.
I don't know.
Lost all their games in a season.
I'll take a look here.
Mike, that means you have to look it up too.
Yep.
So rounding out kind of the rest of the weekend. Just trying to look at some higher ones. Again, Hawaii is kind of coming out, swinging it. They're doing well in the Cambria College Classic. They're doing pretty well there. They beat Minnesota on Friday. Looking at then some of the other games they played. I know they beat Nebraska later.
Oh, that's for basketball. It's in school and I don't know. I'm trying to look here. That's
oh no, Nebraska beat Hawaii. My fault.
Yeah, Nebraska beat Hawaii on Saturday.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll let Mikey try to figure that out. But so I kind of want to go back to that Northwestern thing. So, like we said, only the head coach is left there in a volunteer.
The only the head coach.
A lot of work. That becomes a lot of work, and as a team, granted, you might love the sport, but that just becomes at what point is the program going to either be? Are they looking at shutting it down? Like, what are they gonna? Are they gonna be able to?
I think that's kind of drastic. I feel like if they just step away mid-season, they have a chance still to hire people on, try to fulfill those roles.
Yeah,
but I think it'd be very drastic. Just be like, we're done. You know what? Whatever. Now, if it was like the head coach too stepped away and it was literally just the volunteer coach like leading it, that would be cause for something drastic. Like you'd be like, hey, we gotta. Either he's going to be the next head coach right away, or we're going to have to bring in because he can't just run. Nobody can run it by themselves.
And I will give them this: the Big Ten is not notable for their baseball. They had and granted, when I say that, I mean usually they are not. You had Illinois make it to a couple regional tournaments in the past when Vanderbilt won back in 2014, and they had 2015 when they had Dansby Swanson. No, it was 14. When you had Dansby Swanson as the number 1 draft pick, they were playing in Champaign for that. Kyle Schwarber in Indiana has made it to the regionals a couple times. Michigan has been there, but otherwise, I mean, there's not a lot of Big Ten teams that tend to make the regional tournament. Now, when UCLA and USC kind of come rolling into town here, that's going to be a whole big switch for them. So, which also that for their baseball is just going to be, whew, have fun with that, boys. Because it's not looking pretty. Like right now, I would think that maybe Nebraska would be the best chance to make it for the Big Ten to any regional site. But like you still, if you win the conference, then you get an automatic bid. Yeah.
What about Maryland?
Oh, well, Maryland, yeah, too. I forgot about Maryland. I wasn't looking at them on the schedule because Northwestern does not play Maryland at all this year.
It's because they're on the Maryland's east side. That's why.
So
I'd figure the biggest competition, coming out of the Big Ten would probably be Maryland still.
Yeah. But no, and a lot of other games. We'll get to it. Texas has been struggling.
Texas is buns. Not back.
Buns. They had
give them the soft horns down.
gave LSU a big run for their money last week on Tuesday, which was probably one of the best midweek season games you will see all year, with a final score being a 3-0 victory for the Tigers after LSU hits a bomb in the top of the ninth to break the scoreless tie. So, because Gavin Dugas hit that one, and that thing, I don't know if that ball has landed yet. So, and then going into Cal State Fullerton for the weekend, Texas 6-5, loss on Friday, 4-2 victory win on Saturday, and then today they lost 5-4 in 11 innings. So the Horns are not getting too much done. They started off the year 0-3, pick up a couple of wins, lose one to Indiana, and then they've been just kind of on a skid since. So, and they look to start Big 12 play coming up with Texas Tech on March 24th.
Yes. Okay. So, and looking ahead then to this week, Monday is Air Force, Michigan State, Holy Cross, Penn State, Butler, LSU, Stonehill, and Kansas State.
You're very slow today, boys. It's also past our bedtime.
Right, yeah.
I was going to say, it's been a long weekend. So I've been driving back and forth. And
long weeks, weekends, everything's just kind of cultivating together.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, Costal Carolina would be a good one.
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's, baby.
2017.
St. Peter's was the last team.
2017.
Oh my gosh.
0-38.
Ooh.
Oh. They're currently 0-10.
Nice.
Oh.
They're like, we're gonna break one record this year. It's gonna be that one.
That is tough.
Yeah.
Oklahoma,
last year they went 9-41.
There we go. Getting some wins.
Yeah.
More than the Iona Gales.
No, they're not. They're 0-10.
I'd say just like looking ahead just to games, I feel like there'll be some obviously midweek games there could be some upsets.
A 3-game series against Iona in April.
Nice.
Yes, sir. That must be that'll be a must-watch.
Worst NCAA baseball record ever. Iona comes up a lot.
Yikes.
So there's that for you.
Do with that what you will. Looking at Tuesday, I think one of the most notable games will probably be Southern Miss and Old Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two ranked opponents that'll face off. Otherwise, could be upset city, could be just another regular weekday. Georgia Southern and Georgia will be a good one to watch. Tennessee Tech and Vanderbilt, because Tennessee Tech is somewhat that scrappy team sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Wake Forest and Coastal Carolina. See if Wake Forest can continue their win streak.
That'll be a tough opponent in Coastal Carolina.
They're always pretty good.
Yeah.
NC State and UNC Greensboro.
I was going to say probably another good game that you could really. Oh, it's Oklahoma State and Arizona State would be a good one. Number 12, Okie State, because Arizona State for baseball is usually pretty consistent, or at least runs the NCAA tournament.
LSU and Lamar will play. See if Lamar can do some magic like they did earlier in the season and upset
Keep
the number one
streak.
seed.
Yeah, that'd be pretty damn nice.
Absolutely crazy. And Texas A&M will play Rice, which Rice again showed that they beat Texas Tech, so they can show that they can show up for some games. Excuse me, my allergies are destroying my body.
You are good. Let's see, what do we got for games on Friday?
The weekend, yeah. So we got the first pitch invitational. Be a tournament, and then Mike Sansing Classic. And I think that's the most notable tournaments. I don't have any other ones up.
Yep. That's from what I see there. So
looking at matchups, then go ahead, Nick, if you want to.
Yeah, so kind of looking at that, I mean, throwing it to some ACC play. Some teams are starting conference play this weekend. Some teams aren't. Virginia Tech has Boston College for the first ACC games of the week. Duke's got Wake Forest. Throwing it back to a couple of other games in those tournament. In the Mike Sansing Classic, you got Michigan versus Kennesaw State. In one game in the first pitch invitational, you got Kansas and Western Carolina, and that looks to be the only two games out of those for the day. Stanford has USC this weekend. That should be a good weekend series for the Pac-12, even though Mikey's not going to like that at all. Stanford currently ranked number 2 on the year. Oregon State has Washington State. Oklahoma, Houston, I think that would be a pretty good matchup. Both teams have been historically in the NCAA tournament as well. Ole Miss has Purdue this weekend for a whole series. And this should be probably one of the biggest ones to look at this weekend. At the moment, number 22 Miami has number 21 NC State coming to town in Coral Gables. NC State looking to continue their undefeated season. Miami looking to still keep themselves on the board and in the top 25 after this weekend. But if you're going to be NC State and looking at this NC State team is dangerous, man. Like they have a lot of power behind them. They've been scoring a lot of runs so far this year. They got a man by the name of Cannon Pebbles, and this kid went off this weekend on Saturday, 6 for 6, 1 home run from each side of the plate. So he had 2 nukes on the day, 3 doubles, and 10 RBIs to keep them moving. So NC State could be one of those dangerous teams in the ACC to kind of see if they come out on top. And it's early, but conference play is coming. And for some teams, they got to get a roll, like kind of throwing it in through the ACC. I mean, Clemson, they had a pretty decent weekend against South Carolina at home with a big rivalry series. Because as I'm looking at it right now, if I can pull this up here. Would you give me score updates? You suck. There we go. All right. So they had a 5-2 victory over South Carolina, who was ranked earlier in the week on Friday. Then they had 2 big losses from the last 2 games. But I mean, still, Clemson was hitting the ball really well this weekend. And that ACC, I think, is going to be a tougher conference than a lot of people think for baseball this year.
Yep. I don't know if you mentioned it too. Virginia will play North Carolina.
Yep.
Yep. And then Notre Dame will play Georgia Tech. That'll be another good one to watch. But yeah, I think you covered it.
Yeah. So we should be. Where is Wake? And then I said Wake Forest plays Duke. So I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of good games on for baseball this weekend. I mean, if you're going to be sitting out there, because I know it's supposed to be a little bit snowy and cold this week, so if you got time, sit down and watch some of these games, because these young athletes are going off, and you might catch a couple of good upsets that you wouldn't see coming. And that's the one thing, and I know I've said it a lot, but it's really interesting to see how some of these top teams, like take Vanderbilt, for example, they have had a rough start to the year. I mean, granted, when you play a team like UCLA, and you get a couple of big losses from UCLA, I mean, that's a very big ranked opponent. But you take a team like Nebraska, who really hasn't done much so far this year. I mean, that's a little bit tougher. But kind of looking at Vanderbilt's schedule right now, they're 8-4 on the year, but they had a loss to TCU, win against Okie State, win against Texas, a loss to Central Arkansas, and then they were able to get a couple wins from UCLA. But I mean, otherwise they started off a little rocky, and now they're kind of picking it back up, getting some wins. They had a 8-7 win over Maryland after the loss to Nebraska. They had a 4-0 win. They got Tennessee Tech this week, and then Evansville, and then they've got Loyola Marymount coming up, and that's going to be in Nashville on Vanderbilt's campus. So see if they can kind of keep working it up before their first opponent in the SEC, which is Ole Miss.
Yes. Love that. Again, still early in the season, so we'll keep you updated on win streaks as well as winless streaks. Anyways, so that's all we got to cover today. You can find us on Instagram, not Instagram. Dear God, I'm exhausted. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok at Homaha Pod. Again, you can find us on all podcasting platforms. You can also find us on YouTube. No Place Like Homaha. Right. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
Nope.
Still no Flintstone Gummy sponsorship.
No, sadly.
And we're not on the hub.
And we're not on the hub. It's just
Mikey just hates his life today, doesn't he?
well, we all hate our lives today, man. Tired. You feel like February goes by pretty quickly because I mean it's a short month, and then everything rushes, and then March hits, and it's like,
it's like it went too fast.
Everything
Like,
kind of
slow it.
happening like all at once, you know.
Yeah. So,
I feel like it's that way for college baseball. I feel like it's that way in real life. It's always like you've reached that point, and it's just like, all right, well, it's go time now.
Yep.
No.
Now we're on go time.
Yep. It's been fun. It's been real. Has not been real fun. All right.